Welcome to Pro Practice, your guide to piano mastery. I'm Josh Wright, and today's episode is based on the second movement of the Sonata No. 8 in C minor, Opus 13 by Beethoven, commonly referred to as the Sonata Pathétique. And this second movement is what we're going to be focusing on today. It's one of the most beloved things that Beethoven ever wrote. I mean, not that there's a shortage of beloved works by Beethoven, but this is so unbelievably beautiful. I'll play a little bit of it and then we'll start talking about form, expression, techniques about how to voice that melody out, and a lot of other things to help you become efficient in your practice sessions of this piece. And that theme keeps coming back throughout the piece. This is in a rondo form. Rondo form, okay, first of all, just a confession here. Form and analysis was probably my weakest subject in school. That's usually people's strength. I'm totally fine with harmonic analysis, part writing, all of those things came pretty naturally. But form and analysis, I think I was somewhat crippled by because I saw theory teachers get in fights together about, no, this is where the second theme starts. No, that's part of the transition. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, if theory professors who know a lot more about theory than I do get in fights about these things, I better do my research on each piece that I play. So this is in a rondo form. So a rondo form is something where the main idea keeps coming back. And it can come back in variations, as we're going to see in varied form, as we're going to see throughout this piece. So each time it comes back in this piece, it's in A flat major, and these episodes, or often referred to as couplets, are contrasting materials. So this is the first couplet. Okay, and then it comes back down here in bar 29, back to the main theme. Then it repeats that, and then we go into the second couplet. That time we're in A flat minor, and we modulate all the way to E major, and then we wind our way back to the return of the main theme in bar 51. Okay, so we see that main theme in A flat major. By the way, if I'm going really fast, don't worry, we're going to hit all of these again. And then at the end, we have this perfect authentic cadence here. Perfect authentic cadence means a cadence with the tonic as the soprano voice. So that gives you a little sketch of the piece. Basically, if you want to think of it as the main theme as the A section, then we'd have B, which is our first couplet, and then a return of A, and then C, which is our second couplet, another contrasting idea. And then we have a return of A. And then a coda, I always like to think of that as a little extension of that final perfect authentic cadence. And it doesn't have to be perfect authentic cadence in order to trigger a coda. However, in this case, Beethoven could have done something like that. I'm sure he would have done it much better than that, but this is just extending. Okay, we're going to E flat 7, back to A flat, and then back to E flat 7, back to A flat, E flat 7, A flat, E flat 7, back to A flat, E flat 7, A flat, A flat. So coda is just usually extending that tonic harmony. A lot of times it does what we just saw, where it's going tonic, dominant, tonic, dominant, tonic, dominant, tonic. Okay, so that's a little overview of rondo form in case you don't know that. Why do we even need to know that? It's just notes on the page after all, right? If you can start to think in terms of key areas. Even if you don't really know your key signatures that well, if you're just learning, this is a great way to solidify your key signatures, first of all, and to realize how composers move throughout keys. And it's fascinating. It's fun to watch this. One of my favorite examples, totally off the subject, is a pro practice video we did a while ago on this Chopin etude in F major. And he goes from F major and he steps his way all the way to B major. And as you watch Chopin move through that, chromatic kaleidoscope of key areas, you just are amazed. It's like, oh my goodness. And Beethoven does so many wonderful things here with his key changes, very unexpected harmonic changes. So just be aware of that as we get into today's tutorial, that form, knowing that this is a rondo form and recognizing your key areas can help to not only have a lot more fun with the piece, but also it can help solidify memory. So let's say that you're performing and something is going wrong. Well, you can say, okay, I'm just going to jump to the next section. If you're A, B, A, and you're like, oh no, I messed up in the return of the A section. Well, you can jump to the C section. Hopefully you won't have to jump that far ahead, but at least you have this overall map of where you're going. Okay? So let's jump into more technical concepts now that we've talked about the form. And we're going to hit the form as we go throughout the piece, obviously, again. But I want to, first of all, talk about addition. So I've compared 3 wonderful additions, and there's other great additions to this as well. But I've compared Henley and Vienna Urtext, Wiener, W-I-E-N-E-R, or the Vienna Urtext, and the Arthur Schnabel edition. Arthur Schnabel editing all of this is quite fascinating to look at because he gives so much commentary and writes in so many suggestions. If you want just the most pure score, you're definitely going to want to go with an Urtext like Henley or the Vienna Urtext or Bärenreiter or whatever Urtext edition you prefer. However, it is very fun to look at the Arthur Schnabel edition. And by the way, both the Wiener Urtext and the Henley write this in 3 separate voices. So you have your soprano line written up in the treble clef, and then you have these 2 voices, I guess you would call it the tenor and the bass, or the alto and the bass, whatever you want to do, in the left hand. But that's not how you're going to play it. And out of these 3 editions, Schnabel's edition is the only one that writes it how you're going to actually play it. So if you are just like mid-intermediate player, this is like your first Beethoven sonata that you're looking at, maybe pick up that Arthur Schnabel edition just for the fact that it's written in a friendlier way. It's written up in the correct hand. You don't have to read all 3 voices. However, having said that, it is a good practice to try learning how to read different voices. So if you're ever accompanying or anything like that, you can have a little bit extra practice doing that. Let's start off with a voicing exercise. This is one of the most important things as we look Adagio Cantabile. So Adagio meaning in a slow tempo, and Cantabile meaning in a smooth singing tone. We don't want to have a lot of busyness in the texture. We don't want to be going... The genius of Beethoven's writing is still holding this to be like still a beautiful thing to listen to, but how much greater is this? When we kind of clear a pathway for that melody to just sing out. How do we do that? One of my favorite exercises I learned when I was 9 years old, and I've struggled to come up with a better voicing exercise than this. It's so good. So hats off to my teacher, Susan Dwellmeyer, for teaching me this. I don't think it's an uncommon exercise. It was just a miracle worker for me. You play forte and legato on the top, and staccato and pianissimo on the bottom. And I would just do this in the right hand. So we're going to be doing... It's a wonderful way to start to learn how to voice. And I guess you could do it in the left hand as well. If your left hand is very interruptive. However, I do think this makes a gorgeous line. So if we were going to label each of these in a hierarchy of importance, I would probably put soprano, well, I would for sure put soprano first, bass next, and then this moving line in the middle as the least important so far as volume. Of course, that's a very important voice because it's adding this wonderful flowing texture, but we want to, anytime in music, this is a good general rule, anytime you have things that are repeated, the audience's ear is drawn to that. So if you intentionally want to draw their attention towards something that's repeated, it's very easy. If something's repeated and you need to keep it soft, that's a challenge. And so this piece, while people say, oh, it's not that hard to actually play the notes, to really play these well takes some discipline in working on that exercise. So don't shy away from doing that exercise for weeks or even months if you need to. I'll still do that exercise if I notice that my voicing isn't where I want it to be. Let's just talk briefly about fingering and pedal.